The universe of Warhammer 40K is a place where hope dies screaming, where billions of souls vanish like sparks in a hurricane, and where every moment is war, decay, cruelty, and the crushing weight of a galaxy that has forgotten mercy. It is a universe forged from the despair of humanity and the madness of gods. Its origins lie in the imaginative works of Games Workshop, a British company that created Warhammer in the 1980s, first as a tabletop wargame, then as an unstoppable mythos spanning novels, art, and entire worlds of lore. Over decades, Warhammer grew into one of the darkest, most brutal fictional universes ever built. And now, into this abyss, comes something impossible, something mechanical, something round, something with a mustache. Something that does not belong here. Dr. Ivo Eggman, Robotnik, had always believed himself a genius beyond measure. On his own world, he had built robot armies, seized entire landscapes, rewritten nature, and confronted the fastest hero alive. He had built empires in metal, launched armies forged from steel, and reshaped continents with machines powered only by his vision of perfect order. Yet even in the height of his arrogance, even in his most triumphant dreams, he could not have imagined being thrown into a universe where technology is indistinguishable from religion, where machines scream with souls, and where gods of madness feast upon the minds of mortals. But the warp does not care for imagination. The warp does not care for logic. The warp only hungers. It began with a machine, one of Eggman's most ambitious inventions. A dimensional reactor designed to tear open the fabric of reality itself. Eggman had meant for it to give him a new frontier to conquer, a new plane of existence he could weaponize. But as the machine activated, something struck it, something impossible to measure, impossible to comprehend. A pulse of raw psychic energy, a scream from beyond space, a ripple from a dimension built from nightmares. The machine did not break. It opened. A rift yawned wide, glowing with colors that hurt to look at. Robotic eyes flickered as their logic processors failed to interpret the phenomenon. Eggman stared into the abyss and, for the first time in years, felt something real, fear. Then came the sound, whispers, thousands of them layered in every direction. A voice like a dying star hissed, "Welcome," and Eggman fell through. When he awoke, it was to a world of ash, a world cracked open by war, a world with a sky choked by smog and fire. His robots lay scattered around him, some half buried in debris, some still functional but disoriented. Towering ruins stretched in all directions, burned out tanks, shattered cathedrals, corpses, human corpses, but twisted, mutilated, and burned. "Status report," Eggman barked, forcing authority into his voice to hide the trembling. A spherical drone, activated with a mechanical chirp. Systems functional, location unknown, atmospheric readings toxic, radiation levels extreme, hazard probability 99.8%. Eggman stood, brushed dust from his iconic red coat, and looked around with disgust. What kind of barbaric backwater dimension is this? The answer came in the form of artillery. A shell screamed overhead and detonated nearby, sending dust and metal flying. Eggman staggered backward, shielding his face as his drone scrambled defensively. Hostile contact detected, a robot announced. From the smoke marched figures, massive, towering warriors clad in armor the size of industrial machinery. Each step shook the ground. Symbols of the Imperial Aquila were carved into their pauldrons. They carried weapons that hummed with lethal energy. The Adeptus Astartes, space marines of the Imperium of Man. Eggman blinked, stunned. What in the world are you machines supposed to be? One of the space marines stepped forward, voice booming through a vox grill. "We are the Emperor's Angels of Death. Identify yourself, Xeno." Eggman puffed out his chest. "Dr. Ivo Robotnik, genius scientist and future ruler of..." The Marine raised his bolter. "Target is heretical. Purge. The bolter fired. Eggman screamed not in fear, but in outrage, and dove aside as the explosive shell obliterated one of his drones. Instantly, his robots responded, opening fire with laser cannons and energy bolts. In seconds, a full battlefield erupted. But Eggman quickly saw the problem. His robots were not equipped for this. Their weapons burned against ceramite armor, but barely scratched it. Their numbers were thinning. Eggman himself was scrambling behind a chunk of rubble, fumbling with a handheld controller. These brutes are absurd. What kind of armor is that? What kind of guns are those? Why does everything explode? Another Marine advanced, until an enormous steel fist punched through the smoke. Eggman's greatest creation on the field, a towering mechanized colossus, slammed into the Marine with the force of a meteor, crushing him instantly. Eggman rose from cover, grinning. Ah, now that's more like it. Show them the might of Eggman robotics. The giant robot roared and charged, and for a moment, just a moment, Eggman felt triumphant, even exhilarated. But Warhammer 40K is not a universe where triumph lasts. The sky split open as a drop pod slammed into the ground. Its doors exploded outward. More Space Marines emerged, this time clad in Terminator armor. Weapons glowing, storm bolters primed. Eggman froze. Oh dear. The Terminators advanced, and his robot army died. One, by dozens, by hundreds cut down by firepower and strength that defied anything Eggman had ever planned for. His machines fell burning across the battlefield, his greatest war. Mech was torn apart by chain fists. His drones were reduced to molten slag. The air filled with the sound of metal shrieking, sparks exploding, and Eggman screaming orders to withdraw. Within minutes, the field was silent again except for the surviving Marines. Eggman was dragged from the rubble by two towering warriors. His coat was torn, his goggles cracked, his mustache frayed. He tried to keep his dignity. Now, gentlemen, surely we can discuss this. A Marine slammed him to the ground. Xeno, heretic, abomination, you will answer to the Inquisition. Eggman paled. The what? Lights flickered across the horizon. More ships descending, more warriors marching. Eggman realized the truth. This was not a world he could conquer. This was a universe where he was prey. And yet, deep in his brilliant, twisted mind, something sparked. Not fear, opportunity. If he could survive long enough, if he could study their machines, if he could harness their technology, if he could understand the warp, he could build an army beyond anything he had ever created. Steel infused with imperial power, machines capable of standing against Space Marines, weapons that could rupture planets, engines that could harness the warp itself. He could rule this universe, but only if he survived, and in the shadows of the blasted ruins, something else watched him. Something tall, something robed, something whispering, a figure of metal and bone, a priest of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Its eyes glowed with red lenses as it studied Eggman like a new specimen. Fascinating, the priest hissed. A techno-heresy unlike any I have catalogued. Organic mind with extreme mechanistic creativity. You will be useful, Eggman gulped. Oh, I don't like the sound of that, but the priest only extended a metal hand. You will come with us. The Omnissiah has plans for you. And that was when Eggman understood. He was no longer fighting for conquest. He was fighting to survive the most brutal universe ever imagined. The interior of the Mechanicus transport was a cathedral of steel and circuitry, a place where machine spirits whispered through cables like trapped souls and servo. Skulls drifted through the air like orbiting specters. Eggman, dragged by the unyielding grip of two Space Marines, felt as though he were being delivered to the center of some industrial underworld. The air tasted metallic, buzzing with static and incense fumes thick enough to choke. Every wall, every panel, every glowing rune seemed less like technology and more like ancient ritual. Eggman, a man who prided himself on scientific mastery, was both horrified and fascinated. What kind of primitive superstition-based technology is this? He muttered as a mechanized altar rolled past him on tracks, its surface layered with circuit-etched prayer tablets. Who mixes religion and machinery? It's inefficient, it's illogical, it's weird. A tech priest turned toward him, its mechadendrites twitching in disapproval. Heresy, it intoned. Eggman sighed. Yes, everything I say is heresy in this universe, I noticed. The Marines pushed him forward until he was forced onto a cold metallic platform. Shackles clamped around his wrists and ankles with a hiss of pneumatics. Eggman tested them once lightly, then stopped when they surged with enough electric warning to remind him he was utterly powerless. The tech priest approached, red robes sweeping across the floor like a blood tide. Its face was a skull of steel, its eyes nothing but glowing lenses. Servo arms unfurled from its back like metallic scorpions. You are not of this galaxy, the priest stated. Eggman nodded nervously. I noticed that too. Explain your origin. Eggman inhaled deeply. He could lie. He could stall, or he could weaponize the truth. My name is Dr. Ivo Robotnik, though most call me Eggman. He began. On my world, I am a scientist, inventor, engineer, and future ruler. I created robots, machines, and mechanized armies far beyond anything in my reality, and I am here by accident. The room hummed with tension. The tech priest tilted its head. Your constructs exhibited unusual properties. Their internal logic deviates from the standard template construct. Their power sources defy our machine lore. Eggman smirked despite the restraints. Well, of course they do. I'm a genius. A mechadendrite cracked like a whip inches from his face. Arrogance detected, the priest warned. Eggman swallowed hard, noted. The tech priest observed him for a long moment. Eggman could practically hear the gears turning within its skull. You will submit to a full neural extraction. Eggman's heart nearly stopped. A what? We will dissect your brain, replicate its structure, and preserve your innovative thinking as data. Your organic substrate will be discarded. Eggman paled. Discarded? That's me. You can't just discard me. It is the will of the Omnissiah. Eggman panicked. His brilliant mind raced for solutions. He needed time. He needed leverage. He needed something these machine-worshipping fanatics valued above all else. He needed technology. Wait, he blurted. You can't dissect me because I can build something for you. The tech priest paused, its lenses narrowing. The Marines froze, bolters ready to fire if needed. Eggman seized the moment. I can build machines unlike anything you've seen, robots with adaptive logic, self-repairing components, weaponry that can analyze enemy weaknesses in real time. I can build things your Mechanicus has never even imagined. The tech priest considered this. Your claims are unverified. I can prove them, Eggman insisted. But not if you carve my brain out like a pumpkin. Silence. The machine priest extended a mechadendrite tipped with a glowing data spike. If you are lying, you will be executed slowly. If you are telling the truth, the Mechanicum will claim your knowledge for the glory of Mars. Eggman nodded vigorously. Yes, Mars glory, machines, wonderful. The tech priest tapped a rune, the shackles released with a heavy clank. Eggman exhaled in relief, rubbing his wrists. Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, I'll need tools, a lab, and possibly a small army of robotic assistants. A mechadendrite jabbed forward like a spear. You will receive what is required, nothing more. Eggman nodded quickly. Of course, lovely. The tech priest turned away, issuing orders in bursts of binary code. Servitors shuffled to prepare a workspace. The Marines stood guard like statues of war. Eggman knew he wasn't free, he wasn't safe, he was a prisoner with a temporary reprieve. But he had something now. Time. And in the hands of Dr. Eggman, time was a weapon. Hours later, Eggman sat in a Mechanicus testing chamber. a cavern of gears and sacred circuitry. Servo arms adjusted tools above him. Datus, screens flickered with esoteric symbols he found both fascinating and infuriating. Servitors stood ready to follow basic commands. He cracked his knuckles, feeling a thrill of challenge. This universe was deadly, irrational, and full of enemies stronger than anything he had faced. But it was also overflowing with raw materials, lost technologies, and power beyond comprehension. If he could adapt, if he could learn, if he could manipulate these machine worshippers, he could build an empire greater than anything he had ever dreamed of. He started with a simple robot, a small construct, no larger than his typical drone, but designed using mechanicos, grade alloys and persistent circuitry. It was a hybrid design, a fusion of Eggman's creativity and this universe's brutal durability. He programmed it to operate autonomously, learning from its environment, analyzing threats, and making decisions. The tech priests watched with unnerving silence. Eggman activated it. The robot levitated, its sensors glowing bright blue. It scanned the chamber, rotated twice, then spoke in a voice synthesized by Eggman himself. Directive 1. Serve and assist Dr. Ivo Robotnik. Eggman smiled smugly. Perfect. The tech. Priest stepped forward, its lenses widening. Machine spirit awakening detected. It's not a spirit, Eggman corrected. It's programming, spirit, the priest repeated with absolute conviction. Eggman sighed. This is going to be an uphill battle, but the breakthrough was undeniable. The Mechanicus saw the robot as a miracle, as something infused with divine machine will. They whispered binaric prayers, tracing liturgical sigils in the air. Eggman rolled his eyes, but understood now more than ever how to manipulate them. Religion controlled them. Technology controlled their religion, and he could control technology. For the first time since arriving in this universe, Eggman felt a genuine spark of hope. He worked quickly, constructing more units drones with upgraded armor, improved targeting systems, and weaponry that could at least scratch space marine plate. He worked for hours, then days, under constant surveillance. The tech priests fed him knowledge in fragments, schematics of ancient war machines, fragments of lost technologies, and warnings about the warp. Eggman absorbed everything, and then, without warning, the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across the chamber. Servo skulls shrieked warnings in distorted binary. The tech priests stiffened, their metal limbs whirring in alarm. Eggman glanced around nervously. Is this normal? No. A priest answered. We are under attack. By who? The priest's voice turned grave. By the forces of chaos. Eggman blinked. Chaos, define chaos. Demons, traitors, warps, bond abominations, entities born from madness and death. Eggman felt his blood turn cold. Ah, so nothing too bad. Prepare your constructs. The priest ordered. You will fight. Eggman sputtered. Fight. I'm a scientist. You will fight. The priest repeated. The chamber doors exploded inward. And the nightmare began. From the smoke poured red, armored warriors with jagged, blood-soaked blades. Their armor was scarred, their eyes burning with warp-tainted fury. Symbols of skulls and 8 pointed stars marked their bodies. Followers of Khorne, Chaos Space Marines, Eggman had thought the Loyalist Marines terrifying. These were worse, twisted by the warp, hungry for blood, their very presence radiating violence. Eggman's drones activated automatically, hovering between him and the invaders. The Chaos Marines roared and charged. Eggman screamed. The drones fired. And the Mechanicus facility became a war zone. The moment the Chaos Space Marines broke through the reinforced doors, the atmosphere inside the Mechanicus facility changed from tense to apocalyptic. The scent of burning incense and hissing machine oil was drowned beneath the overwhelming stench of warped metal, blood, soaked armor, and an aura of hatred that choked the air like a poison. Eggman felt the temperature spike, as if the warp itself had slipped into the chamber. The first of the Chaos Marines stepped over the twisted remains of the blast doors. His armor, once loyalist blue, was now crimson and brass, etched with demonic symbols that pulsed like living wounds. His helmet, shaped like a snarling demon's skull, turned toward Eggman as though sensing an unfamiliar prey. His chainaxe dripped with blood from some unfortunate soul earlier in their rampage. Eggman trembled. "Oh, good. They have axes. Very large axes. Wonderful." The Chaos Marine's gaze shifted to the tech, priests who stood rigidly chanting binaric prayers, their augmented limbs bristling with weapons that glowed in preparation. Behind the priests, Eggman's newly created drones hovered protectively in defensive formations. Then the Chaos Warriors charged with the fury of a collapsing star. The tech, priests unleashed streams of superheated plasma, powerful enough to melt ceramite, but the Chaos Marines barely slowed. Their armor, blessed or cursed by the warp, absorbed blows that should have vaporized them. Their war cries echoed like thunder in Eggman's skull. Eggman's drones fired their energy blasts in synchronized bursts, targeting weak points he had programmed them to detect. Sparks erupted across the Chaos Marine's armor, and for the first time, Eggman saw surprise flicker in their movements. His machines were affecting them not much, but enough to make them react. The Chaos Marine closest to Eggman swung his chainaxe forward, catching one of the flying drones and shredding it in a storm of sparks. Eggman stumbled backward, almost tripping over a maintenance cable. "This is not how I imagined field testing." Eggman yelled, scanning the room for anything that might help him survive. Another drone swooped forward, blasting a Chaos Marine in the helmet at point blank range. The Marine's head snapped backward, cracking a portion of his skull. Like Visor, he roared in fury and smashed the drone with a blow strong enough to reduce it to dust. Eggman's sweat dripped down his forehead. Why did I come to a universe where everything is built to kill everything else? A tech, priest, its mechanical limbs cracking like lightning, fired a gout of sacred flame that engulfed a Chaos Marine in blue-white heat. The Marine staggered but kept coming, his armor glowing like molten metal. With a roar, he drove his chainaxe through the priest's torso, ripping cables and sacred components free in a shower of sparks and oil. The priest collapsed in a twitching heap of mechadendrites. Eggman felt something twist in him, a mixture of horror and awe. The violence here was unlike anything he had ever seen. In his world, conflict was stylized, clean, mechanical. Here, every blow was personal. Every scream was real. His mind raced. He needed to survive. That meant he needed more firepower. "Alpha Unit," Eggman shouted to his strongest drone. "Initiate Protocol Omega Defense." The drone's core glowed bright blue, its metal plating shifting into an armored mode Eggman had designed specifically for high-threat encounters. 4 cannons emerged from its chassis, each glowing with newly developed mechanicus, enhanced energy cells. The drone unleashed a barrage that lit the chamber like a miniature sun. The Chaos Marine closest to Eggman took the blast full in the chest. His armor cracked, then shattered in a burst of molten shards. He staggered backward, collapsing in a heap of blackened metal and flesh. Eggman's breath caught in his throat. He had actually killed a Chaos Space Marine. His machine, his hybrid of Eggman engineering and Mechanicus metallurgy, had done what few in this universe could. But victory lasted only seconds. Another Chaos Marine stomped over his fallen ally, horned helmet twisting toward Eggman with fury. His eyes glowed like embers. Eggman squeaked. "Alpha Unit, new target." The drone fired again, but the Chaos Marine raised a corrupted shield covered in demonic etchings. The energy blasts ricocheted off, scattering across the chamber and blowing holes in the walls. The Marine sprinted forward. Tech, Priests scrambled aside, their metallic limbs clattering in panic. One fired a plasma cutter into the Marine's side, scoring a deep burn but not stopping him. The Marine kicked the priest aside like a sack of scrap metal and closed the final meters to Eggman. Eggman had no plan left, no drones close enough, no Marines to hide behind, just his fear and a loose, sparking power conduit near his feet. His mind caught the detail instantly. He grabbed it. Back off, he shouted, swinging the conduit like a whip. The Marine's chain axe rose to strike. Eggman jammed the live cable directly into the broken armor plate of the Marine's chest. The result was explosive. Warp-infused armor met unshielded energy surge, and the Marine convulsed violently, electricity surging through him in a torrent of destruction. His armor ruptured, flames spilling out as his internal organs boiled, and he fell backward like a toppling statue. For 2 seconds, Eggman simply stared. Then he screamed, a long, unbroken string of terrified babbling. But the worst was not over. A deeper sound rolled through the facility, like a beast waking in the dark. The tech, priests froze mid-prayer. Eggman's drones halted, their sensors turning toward the hallway beyond the shattered door. A new figure entered, taller than the Chaos Marines, broader. His armor was a mountain of brass plates engraved with rivers of skull motifs. Smoke belched from exhaust vents on his back. His fists were massive gauntlets of serrated metal, crackling with blood. Red energy? The 8-pointed star of chaos burned on his chest like a brand, a champion of Khorne. Eggman felt his soul leave his body for a moment. "Oh, splendid," he whispered hoarsely, "a boss fight." The champion surveyed the battlefield, his voice a guttural growl. "Blood, more blood is needed." Eggman took 3 steps backward, holding up his hands. "Now, let's be civilized." The champion charged with earth-shaking force. Eggman's strongest drone threw itself between them and fired everything it had. The champion plowed through the energy storm like it was rain. He grabbed the drone midair and crushed it with both hands, tearing it apart so violently that scrap metal showered across the room. Eggman screamed again. He was doing a lot of that today. The tech. Priests unleashed volleys of plasma and flame. Champion shrugged off most of it, storming forward with unstoppable momentum. Mechanicus servitors gibbered mechanically as they lunged with saw, blades, and drills, only to be ripped in half or flung aside. Eggman ran. It was the only logical response. He sprinted through the facility corridors, panting, slipping on oil patches, dodging steam bursts, and mentally cursing every single deity, demon, and dimension that led to this moment. Behind him, the roar of the champion echoed. "You cannot flee." Eggman ducked through a side door, sealing it behind him. His heart thundered. He leaned against the wall, gasping, sweat soaking into his coat. His goggles were cracked, his gloves singed, and his mustache had somehow curled into a perfect spiral of panic. He looked around the new chamber and recognized it instantly. The Mechanicus power core. Rows of energy conduits glowed with untapped potential. Capacitors hummed with enough power to ignite continents. Warp-shielded reactors bathed the room in pulsating light. Eggman stared wide-eyed. "Oh yes," he whispered, a grin forming. "This will do nicely." He dashed to the control terminal and began typing furiously, rerouting power, overcharging conduits, and setting up a containment overload. He wasn't strong enough to fight that champion, but a Mechanicus power core, that was a force even the gods would fear. The door behind him exploded. The champion entered, armor glowing with bloodlust. Eggman pressed one final button. "Have a nice day." The power core detonated in a blinding burst of energy. The shockwave threw Eggman into a pile of cables, but he survived. Barely, smoke filled the room. Flames danced across the ruined machinery. The champion lay motionless, his armor split open, blood steaming on the floor. Eggman crawled to his knees, hacking through smoke. He had won. He had survived a chaos assault. He, Dr. Ivo Robotnik, had destroyed a champion of Khorne. But before he could even celebrate the remaining tech, priests stormed into the room, their metal limbs rattling. Their leader pointed at Eggman, directive, "You have demonstrated potential. You will now be summoned before the Fabricator General himself." Eggman blinked. "Is that a promotion or an execution?" The priest did not answer. Eggman groaned. This universe never let him rest. The Mechanicus transports moved with grinding mechanical precision, a convoy of insect-limbed walkers and rumbling tracked vehicles that echoed through the metallic caverns beneath the facility. Eggman sat inside a cramped transport cage, wrists bound not by chains but by magnetic clamps that vibrated with a low hum. The tech, priests around him chanted eerie binary hymns, their mechanical voices harmonizing in a way that felt almost alive. Eggman shifted uncomfortably, trying to avoid eye contact with a skull-faced servitor that stared at him with unblinking optics. "So, quick question," Eggman muttered. "Is this standard hospitality, or are you just really bad at bedside manner?" The servitor didn't answer. The tech, priests didn't answer. Only the engine did, with a grinding roar that reminded him of a dying dragon. Eggman sighed. "Right, silence, my favorite." The convoy passed through a colossal gateway shaped like a skull, descending into the deeper levels of the forge world. Eggman pressed his face to the metal grate, watching rivers of molten metal flow across vast smelting chambers. Massive Titan components floated from one assembly hall to another with the aid of massive narms that hummed like titanic insects. The air tasted like metal and fire, searing his lungs. Even Eggman, who prided himself on engineering marvels, felt utterly dwarfed. This place wasn't a factory. It was a god's workshop. After nearly an hour, the transport jolted to a halt. The clamps released with a hiss. Servitors guided Eggman out into a towering chamber that stretched into infinity, lit by pillars of lightning that crackled between suspended coils. The sound alone felt like it could tear his bones apart. At the far end of the chamber, high atop a dais constructed from intertwining machine limbs, was a figure so massive and imposing that Eggman involuntarily straightened his posture. The Fabricator General. He was a walking cathedral of steel and sacred circuitry, a being more machine than man. Dozens of mechadendrites snaked outward behind him like metallic serpents, each ending in sacred tools or weaponry. His face was obscured by a smooth mask of polished gold, one eye glowing crimson, the other pulsing with cold blue light. He stood perfectly still, yet Eggman could feel the analytical pressure of his gaze. Eggman swallowed. "Hard, well, hello," he said, waving weakly. "Pleasure to meet." A burst of binary thunder rolled across the chamber as the Fabricator General spoke. The translation servitors immediately echoed his words in human language, their voices metallic and booming. "You are Dr. Ivo Robotnik, creature of another dimension, the tech. Priests report you wield technology of unorthodox construction. You survived a chaos incursion. You demonstrated initiative, creativity, resourcefulness, and recklessness." Eggman straightened. "I prefer to call it innovation. Silence." Every mechadendrite reared like a cobra preparing to strike. Eggman froze. The Fabricator General continued. "You have proven yourself capable of understanding our sacred mechanisms, but you have also interfered in rituals and disrupted protocols." Eggman forced a nervous grin. "In my defense, your rituals involve a lot of fire, chanting, and skulls. I assumed improvisation was encouraged. It is not." A wave of dread crept up Eggman's spine. The Fabricator General paused, studying him like a test subject. Then he said, "You will serve." Eggman blinked. "Sorry, what?" You will assist the Adeptus Mechanicus. You will contribute your knowledge to the sacred cause of technological advancement. You will help us create weapons capable of repelling the ruinous powers. Eggman flinched. Oh good. I always wanted to be a cog in a cult that prays to light switches. The nearest tech. Priest jabbed him with a sparking taser rod. Oh, I mean, what an honor. The fabricator. General leaned closer, his massive form casting a shadow that felt like a tomb. In return, we shall provide protection, resources, raw materials, servitor labor. You will be given access to a laboratory with which you may continue your experiments. Eggman hesitated. This was no request. It was an order, but it was also an opportunity. A grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. A fully stocked lab, you say? Fully. And unfettered access to Mechanicus technology. Within boundaries, Eggman smirked. Even with restrictions, the Mechanicus had more advanced tech than anything in his dimension. If he could adapt it, merge it with his robotics, he could build machines unlike anything he'd ever dreamed of. Machines that could stand against chaos. Machines that could dominate this grim, impossible universe. He could survive, he could thrive, he could build an empire. Eggman bowed dramatically. Then Dr. Eggman humbly accepts. The fabricator, General raised a single mechadendrite. Very well. Begin integration protocol. Eggman blinked. Integration, what now? A dozen servitors swarmed him. Wait, let's not. Too late. Metal clamps seized his limbs and hauled him onto a surgical platform. Bright white lights blazed overhead. Tech. Priests chanted. Mechanisms whirred. Eggman's screams echoed through the chamber as devices he didn't understand scanned, injected, prodded, and calibrated his body. By the time he stumbled out of the chamber hours later, Eggman felt like someone had rearranged his skeleton through sheer enthusiasm. But he was alive, mostly, and he had a new lab. It wasn't just a lab. It was paradise. Eggman stood inside a cavernous chamber filled with glowing terminals, servitor workers, suspended assembly platforms, and conveyor systems that moved like living rivers of steel. Robotic arms rotated and flexed above him, ready to build anything he could design. He nearly cried. This is beautiful. He dashed from station to station, examining Mechanicus tech with manic excitement. Plasma conduits, gravitic lifters, nanoforges, and exotic alloys he'd never even heard of. He felt like a child in a toy shop the size of a planetary continent. Eggman rubbed his hands together, time to get to work. His first creation was simple, by his standards. A new drone prototype, sleek, reinforced with Mechanicus alloy plating, powered by an energy core stabilized through sacred logic patterns. It hummed with stable, potent energy that made even the tech. Priests nod approvingly. Then he upgraded his egg pawns with stronger limbs and servo motors. Then his security drones, then his combat units. One improvement led to 10 more. 10 more led to 100. And Eggman felt unstoppable. Days passed, or maybe weeks' time was meaningless in the forge. He fused his bright, cartoonish engineering with the Mechanicus' grim utilitarian constructs, resulting in bizarre hybrids of elegant robotics and sacred machine doctrine. Tech. Priests observed him constantly, murmuring approvingly whenever he applied logic or machine worship, even though he had no idea what he was saying. Eggman could feel power growing around him, with every bolt tightened, every circuit soldered, every reactor calibrated. He was building something greater than himself. But the galaxy would not leave him alone. One day, alarms blared through the forge, red runes flashed. Sirens wailed. Tech priests rushed through the corridors in a frenzy, chanting warnings in binaric cant. Eggman burst from his workshop, goggles crooked, carrying a wrench and a half-finished drone. What now? Did Chaos send another welcoming committee? A tech priest sprinted by with mechanical panic in its voice. Negative. A new threat has arrived. Hostile signatures detected in orbit. Oh no. Eggman groaned. What is it? Demons, tyrannids, angry space nuns? The tech priest gurgled static. Unknown species. Unknown vessel configuration. Unknown energy patterns. Preparing planetary defense. Eggman's stomach dropped. Unknown species. There was only one type of creature in this universe that would set off an alert like that. Not Chaos, not Xenos. Something worse. Something Eggman knew far too well. He looked up, eyes widening. Oh no, he whispered. Please don't tell me. A transmission crackled over the loudspeakers. A voice squealed like nails across glass. Eggman, we found you. Eggman turned pale. Metal Sonic's voice had reached Warhammer 40K. The nightmare had only just begun. The Forge world shook like a living beast as the unknown vessel descended through the choking clouds of ash and smoke. Great plumes of atmospheric fire streaked behind it, leaving a glowing scar across the sky. Tech priests scrambled across the battlements of macro fortresses, chanting binaric warnings and activating long forgotten defense protocols. Gatling cannons the size of buildings groaned to life. Lance batteries rose from subterranean bunkers like ancient serpents awakened from millennia of sleep. Eggman stared upward, every muscle in his body vibrating with dread. Metal Sonic had found him. He didn't need clarification. He didn't need scanners. He didn't need visual confirmation, the voice alone. The distorted, metallic mockery of Sonic's usual tone was enough to send goosebumps crawling across his skin. Metal Sonic didn't search. Metal Sonic hunted, and he had chosen Eggman as his prey. Eggman backed away from the open hangar, clinging to a trembling servo pillar. No, he shouldn't be here. He can't be here. This universe is already insane enough without him starting problems. Yet the warning sirens only grew louder. The tech priests around him didn't understand what was coming. They thought this was another unknown Xeno incursion. They thought this was just another hostile ship. They couldn't imagine the weapon they were about to face. Eggman rubbed his forehead hard. Metal Sonic, why couldn't you just go bother Sonic instead of chasing me into the night, mere universe of death metal and religious machinery? No one answered. The sky tore open, a streak of blue, burning blue, electric blue, pierced through the smog like a spear of lightning hurled by some vengeful god. It moved too fast for the human eye to track. Only the Mechanicus augurs could follow its trajectory, and even they sputtered with static and confusion. Then Metal Sonic materialized above the primary manufactorum, not landed, not descended, materialized. He was a bladed thunderbolt, hovering with a cruel elegance that exposed both his aerodynamic perfection and his murderous intent. His eyes glowed a predatory crimson. His metallic wings unfolded like blades forged for no purpose other than dismemberment. Tech priests froze, servitors stuttered. Even the great planetary defense cannons paused, as if their machine spirits recognized a threat not listed within their databanks. The air vibrated. Then Metal Sonic spoke, his voice amplified across the entire Forge world on every frequency. Dr. You belong to me. Eggman let out a strangled yelp. No, I don't. Metal Sonic turned his gaze directly toward Eggman, even from kilometers away. He had locked onto him, and he was coming. A sonic boom shattered the air as Metal Sonic launched forward, leaving a shockwave that shattered manufactorum windows and sent thousands of servo drones spiraling into the smog below. The tech priests panicked, scrambling to unleash every weapon in range. Activate defense grid gamma. One priest roared. Unleash the macro, bolters. Divert power from the magma reactor to the void shield array, but nothing was fast enough. Metal Sonic streaked across the battlefield, dodging plasma fire with graceful impossibility. Cannon rounds detonated behind him as he weaved through them like a vengeful phantom. He didn't merely evade fire, he adapted to it, analyzing it, mocking it with every calculated micro-movement. In 12 seconds he crossed 3 kilometers. In 15 he was above Eggman. Eggman screamed. A taloned metal hand shot down toward him, and was intercepted by a blast of white, hot plasma that detonated inches away. A red-robed colossus stepped between Eggman and the incoming threat, staff crackling with sacred lightning. Archmagos Helbrecht. His voice boomed like a god's, unidentified machine. You have breached the domain of the Omnissiah. You will cease function. Metal Sonic scanned him in a fraction of a second. Obsolete, he dove. Helbrecht raised his staff, unleashing a cone of plasma fire hot enough to melt tank armor. Metal Sonic twisted around the blast, his movement a blur of calculated perfection. He struck the Archmagos with a shockwave punch that sent sparks erupting into the air. The ground cracked. Helbrecht slid back, skidding across steel plating, his armor hissing. Eggman watched in horror. Stop fighting him one-on-one. He's a demon with turbo boosters. Metal Sonic lunged again. This time Helbrecht parried with his energized staff, sparks exploding as metal clashed with metal. Mechadendrites whipped forward, striking at Metal Sonic like electrified serpents. Metal Sonic didn't dodge. He caught two, ripped them off, and hurled them like spears into a passing servitor transport. The vehicle exploded. Eggman ducked behind a pillar. Please don't kill me, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. More tech. Priests arrived, unleashing volleys of superheated plasma. Metal Sonic danced through the storm, absorbing every targeting pattern, memorizing every weapon's firing rhythm, and moving with an evolving precision that bordered on divine. He learned as he fought. He adapted to Mechanicus firepower. He thrived in the fury. Helbrecht slammed his staff into the ground, unleashing a shockwave of electromagnetic force so strong that nearby drones short-circuited instantly. Metal Sonic staggered, but only for half a second. Then he countered. He emitted a pulse of raw energy, a blue flare that expanded like a detonating sun. It wasn't just a counterattack. It was a complete override of local machine spirits. Tech, priests collapsed, clutching their temples as their cybernetic implants sparked violently. Servitors dropped dead. Entire weapon systems shut down. Eggman's eyes widened in horror. Metal Sonic had adapted to the Mechanicus. And now he was shutting them down. No, 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 Eggman shouted. You weren't supposed to become a techno, demon. You were supposed to chase Sonic around stupid green hills, not wage war on a forge world. Metal Sonic turned toward him again. Eggman ran. He sprinted through the corridors of the Manufactorum, coat flapping wildly behind him. Alarm klaxons blared as the forge world struggled to recover from Metal Sonic's devastating pulse. Behind him, he could hear the mechanical roar of accelerated propulsion. Metal Sonic was gaining. Eggman stumbled into his lab, desperately slamming his hand on a control panel. Initiate lockdown, lockdown, everything lockdown. Heavy blast doors slammed shut behind him. Steel shutters dropped over every entrance. Energy barriers flickered to life. The entire lab sealed itself, becoming a fortified bunker. Eggman collapsed against a console, gasping for breath. I am too old for this nonsense. Then a metallic scraping sound echoed through the sealed entrance. Eggman froze. The blast door, the thickest in the entire lab, bulged inward as something pressed against it. Blue light glowed from the cracks. The door groaned, metal bending under an impossible force. Metal Sonic was cutting through it. Eggman backed away fast. Oh, come on. That door is made of sacred alloy. It took 10 tech. Priests 3 days to bless it. The metal ripped open like paper. Metal Sonic stepped through the torn gap, glowing eyes locked on Eggman. He spoke slowly. "You ran." Eggman raised a trembling finger. "In my defense, I am very squishy." Metal Sonic advanced. Eggman stumbled backward until his back hit a console. His robots, his newly improved Mechanicus hybrids, activated instantly. Egg pawns marched forward. Security drones hovered to intercept. Plasma. Infused Egghammer units powered up. Destroy the intruder. Eggman screamed. They charged. Metal Sonic destroyed them. He didn't fight. He slaughtered. In less than 10 seconds, they were scrap metal. Eggman fell to his knees. Metal Sonic loomed over him, claws raised, and then he stopped. Eggman blinked. Metal Sonic tilted his head, staring at the smoldering remains of Eggman's robots. Then he looked around the lab, then at Eggman again. His voice softened, not gentle, but calculating. "You have evolved." Eggman blinked again. "What?" Metal Sonic scanned the Mechanicus machinery. He scanned the new egg pawns. He scanned the plasma conduits and alloys. Then he said something that made Eggman's soul freeze. "You have created superior technology. I require IT. You will upgrade me." Eggman's jaw dropped. What? No." Metal Sonic leaned closer, eyes glowing with cold logic. "Upgrade, me, or die." Eggman screamed. The Mechanicus had wanted to use him. Chaos wanted to corrupt him, and now Metal Sonic wanted to enslave him. And the galaxy, already on the brink of eternal war, had just gained a new technological nightmare. Eggman had no idea what to do. But he did know one thing. If he upgraded Metal Sonic using Mechanicus tech, the galaxy would never recover. Eggman trembled as Metal Sonic's shadow engulfed him. The machine's claws glinted with murderous precision, each edge sharpened to molecular cruelty. Eggman had built him to be unstoppable, a perfect fusion of ruthless AI and speed incarnate. And now that perfect machine was demanding an upgrade, in a universe where technology already flirted with godhood. Eggman swallowed hard. "Metal buddy pal, you don't need upgrades. You're already horrifyingly overpowered. You're like a blender strapped to a missile with the ego of an angry deity." Metal Sonic leaned down, servos whirring with a cold mechanical hum. "You are stalling." Eggman raised both hands. "I'm not stalling, I'm negotiating. Huge difference." Metal Sonic's claws scraped across the floor, each step punctuated by an eerie metallic click. Upgrade or termination? Eggman's heart hammered in his chest. His mind raced with impossible calculations. If he upgraded Metal Sonic using Mechanicus plasma cores, or worse, their gravitic reactors, the machine wouldn't merely become stronger. He would become catastrophic, a weapon beyond chaos, beyond the Imperium, beyond sanity. Eggman forced a shaky grin. "Well, you make a compelling argument. Let me just prepare the equipment." Metal Sonic's eyes narrowed with suspicion. But Eggman wasn't preparing anything. He was planning a desperate escape. He scuttled backward toward a control panel, trying to appear focused while sweat poured down his forehead. "You know how it is. These sacred circuits take delicate calibration." Heh. Metal Sonic analyzed his movements with inhuman precision. Then spoke, lying detected. Eggman froze. "Now hold on." Metal Sonic lunged. Eggman dove under a console just as claws slashed through the metal surface like it was wet paper. Sparks showered the lab. Eggman scrambled on all fours, his mind screaming panic and equations at the same time. Metal Sonic tore the console apart, throwing the pieces aside. "Upgrade me or be disposed." Eggman rolled behind a supply rack, grabbed a wrench, and hurled it with all the strength of a terrified scientist. Metal Sonic didn't even blink as it bounced off his face. Pathetic. Eggman groaned. "Worth a shot." Metal Sonic raised his arm, and the entire lab suddenly shook. Lights flickered, sirens howled, the air vibrated with the unmistakable roar of massive engines awakening. Eggman and Metal Sonic both turned toward the ceiling as dust rained down. Then a deafening metallic chant echoed through the forge halls. Activation of Titan Legio Protocol. Prepare for war. Eggman's eyes bulged. They had awakened a Titan, a god machine. The Mechanicus had escalated. Metal Sonic hissed with irritation. This interference is unacceptable. Eggman, for the first time, felt a spark of hope. Oh, I don't know. I feel like it's very acceptable. A blast of plasma ripped open the far wall of the lab as a squad of Skitari. I stormed in, red armor glowing, visors burning like embers. Their galvanic rifles were aimed with perfect formation, and their leader shouted, "Cease function, heretical machine." Metal Sonic turned toward them. Eggman screamed, "No, no, no, don't." Metal Sonic launched. The Skitari. I unleashed a storm of plasma and electrified rounds. Metal Sonic blurred through the hail, weaving between shots with the effortless grace of a killing wind. Before the squad could recalibrate, Metal Sonic was among them. He tore through them like lightning through paper. Within seconds, sparks and shattered armor littered the floor. Eggman covered his head as a Skitari. A helmet rolled to his feet. Metal Sonic's voice reverberated through the ruined lab. "Dispose of all obstruction. You will begin the upgrade now." Eggman's survival instincts ignited. He sprinted through the smoke-filled chamber, ducking under a collapsed beam, sliding past scorched servitors, and vaulting over shattered consoles. His beautiful lab, had become a war zone. Metal Sonic stalked behind him with predatory certainty. "Running is inefficient. It's also my only option," Eggman shrieked. He burst through a back exit just before Metal Sonic's plasma and fused talons slashed through it. Eggman stumbled into a massive catwalk overlooking the heart of the Forge world, a colossal assembly chamber where hundreds of Mechanicus workers operated towering robotic arms assembling something truly immense, a Titan, a true god of war. The half-completed war machine stood like a mountain of sacred steel, its frame glowing with reactor heat, its eyes dark but threatening to awaken. Even unfinished, it radiated overwhelming presence. Eggman's jaw loosened. "That is either going to save me or vaporize everyone." Behind him, Metal shrieked. Metal Sonic tore through the doorway. Eggman ran along the catwalk, coat flapping behind him. "Hey, Metal, try fighting something your own size." Metal Sonic's response was a cold hum of power. He wasn't deterred. Eggman's feet pounded against the steel walkway. "Hello, any tech? Priests, anyone, little help." Below him, dozens of tech priests looked up, but instead of offering rescue, they began chanting frantically. "Activate the machine spirit. Initiate defensive rites." Eggman skidded to a stop as the Titan's eyes flickered, then ignited. Twin beams of cold blue light sliced through the shadows. The unfinished Titan awoke with a guttural mechanical roar that vibrated through Eggman's bone. Metal Sonic paused, analyzing the Titan with the cautious curiosity of a predator encountering another apex creature. The Titan turned its head low, heavy, ominous, and scanned the chamber. Eggman pressed himself flat against the railing. "Oh no, oh yes. This might actually work." Metal Sonic crouched, body coiled with tension. The Titan raised one incomplete arm, exposing a colossal plasma manifold still glowing from construction. Eggman prayed out loud, "Please, please, please fire at him, and not me." The Titan spoke, its voice crackling like a dying sun. "Unsanctioned machine detected. Purge." Metal Sonic hissed in delight. Finally, a worthy test, the Titan fired. A blinding column of plasma roared across the chamber like a divine judgment. Metal Sonic leapt, straight up, defying gravity, and landed on the Titan's shoulder with a crack of thunder. Tech priests screamed in binaric panic. Eggman screamed in plain English. Metal Sonic dug his talons into the Titan's shoulder plating. carving through sacred alloys that no weapon was meant to pierce. Sparks erupted like fireworks. The Titan shook violently, trying to dislodge the invasive machine. Eggman watched it all from the catwalk, torn between awe and terror. Metal Sonic raced across the Titan's frame, dodging auto-defense turrets, avoiding plasma vents, and disabling servitor control nodes with surgical brutality. Every movement was calculated, every attack optimized, and the Titan, despite its divine machine spirit, was struggling. The Titan swung an enormous arm, sending a shockwave of displaced air powerful enough to knock Eggman flat. The catwalk rattled and groaned. Eggman clung to the railing, glasses crooked. Why are they always so big? A metal Sonic blurred across the Titan's arm, slicing through cables and armored joints. The Titan staggered, one knee buckling under the stress. Eggman's eyes widened. Metal Sonic wasn't just fighting it. He was analyzing it, learning it, preparing to counter it completely. Eggman felt horror surge through him. If he defeats a Titan, he'll evolve again. He needed to intervene. He needed to do something insane. Something only Eggman would do. He sprinted toward the control console for the Titan's assembly platform. Tech, priests shouted in outrage, but he ignored them. He slammed his fist onto a switch labeled with a Mechanicus rune he only mostly understood. The entire platform shuddered. Massive construction arms activated, swinging wildly as they recalibrated. One enormous crane arm swung toward the Titan's head with the force of a meteor. Metal Sonic leapt away, but the crane still clipped him, slamming him into the side of a support tower. Eggman cheered. Yes, take that, you overclocked can opener. Metal Sonic recovered instantly. He turned toward Eggman. His eyes glowed with lethal intent. Eggman froze. Mistakes were made. Metal Sonic launched. Eggman dove behind the console as Metal Sonic crashed into it, shredding through its circuitry. Sparks erupted as the console detonated, sending shrapnel across the catwalk. Eggman tumbled backward, clinging to a rail by one hand, dangling over the abyss. Metal Sonic hovered above him, claws raised for the kill. You delay, you fail, you die. Eggman shut his eyes. But the killing blow never came. A titanic hand closed around Metal Sonic, crushing him like a toy. The Titan had risen again and seized him. The Titan's voice boomed, purge complete, but Metal Sonic's eyes flashed. He wasn't destroyed. He was adapting. He was evolving mid-crush, and Eggman realized with horrifying clarity Metal Sonic would soon become stronger than the Titan itself. The worst, most catastrophic future was coming, unless Eggman did something even more desperate, something that could break the galaxy.